I've always known that my husband had an unattainable love, his white moonlight. On the day the new emperor settled the war, he protected his white moonlight by letting me take the blame, which led to my family's tragic death. To be able to shield Schwer from disaster is your blessing, he once said. But in the end, I'm the man you'll never have. When I opened my eyes, I found myself back to the moment when white moonlight was desperately pleading for protection. This time, I directly gave him my luck. In my past life, I died beneath a storm of blades. I could have survived, but Lin Zhao personally traded my chance to live for someone else. The door was violently pushed open, and without a word, the person began to hack at me. The drug hadn't worn off yet, and with the wounds on my body, I couldn't speak, only instinctively curling up to avoid the pain. The attacker didn't stop. They yanked my hands off my face and raised the blade, slashing at my face. The pain from my injuries made it hard to breathe, and my cries were strangled, hoarse, and filled with despair. Perhaps because they pitied me, the attacker looked at my struggling, convulsing form on the ground and said, "Don't blame me. To shield the young lady of the Wen family from disaster is your blessing. Remember, in the next life, don't fight over a man with her." Fight over a man? Suddenly, I remembered Wen Yixue, who came to visit yesterday. Wen Yixue was the most renowned young lady in the capital, even surpassing the princesses. A few years ago, under the influence of his friends, Lin Zhao confessed his feelings to Wen Yixue, but in front of the crowd, she rejected him and humiliated him terribly. My only connection to Wen Yixue was through my husband, Lin Zhao. Lin Zhao's family, the Lin family, had been longtime acquaintances with my family. Before marrying into the Lin family, I had never actively approached Lin Zhao. Everything had been arranged by our parents. Yet, he still blamed me for the regret of not being with Wen Yixue and was cold and distant in our first year of marriage. That was until the news came that Wen Yixue and the sixth prince, born of Empress Wen, were about to be engaged. After a long conversation with my mother-in-law, Lin Zhao began to treat me with more care. Perhaps he realized there was no hope with Wen Yixue, or maybe he saw that I remained obedient and never intentionally caused trouble, avoiding him. From then on, Lin Zhao returned home to be a good son and husband. But all this peace shattered after the rebellious prince's coup. The current emperor was weak and favored Empress Wen, fostering the Wen family's ambition. The Wen family couldn't wait for the emperor to pass the throne to the sixth prince and poison the emperor, placing the sixth prince on the throne. Once the Wen family took power, they eliminated their enemies, and chaos spread through the court. Far away in his fief, the rebellious prince returned to the capital at a critical moment, turning the tide. The Wen family fled, and the capital descended into further turmoil. Now, whenever a Wen family lady appeared, she captured Lin Zhao's full attention. He was willing to drug his wife and even bear the shame of harboring a traitor to save her. In the midst of the chaotic fire, I swallowed my unwillingness, unable to die in peace. Wen Yixue is innocent, but Lin Zhao's voice snapped me back to reality. Didn't I die? How could this be? When I came to, Lin Zhao was standing in front of me, his face full of anxiety, about to speak but holding back. His worry for Wen Yixue had made him forget that we were also trying to escape for our lives. When I died, I was still thinking, Lin Zhao, that petty man, and Wen Yixue, I wouldn't let you off even as a ghost. I hadn't wanted to marry Lin Zhao because of how he was humiliated when he confessed to Wen Yixue. If I married him, people would definitely dig up the past and laugh at us, and besides, I didn't like someone who liked Wen Yixue. Wen Yixue was a fake. On the outside, she looked like a noble young lady, but in reality, she was jealous, ruthless, and cunning. There was once a young official's daughter who wore the same color dress as her at a poetry gathering. She didn't show any signs of jealousy at first, and even complimented the girl for her good taste and shared choice in clothing. The next day, we heard that the young official's daughter was stripped of her clothes and thrown into an alley. That night, the girl hanged herself. Such a domineering and cruel act would never be linked to Wen Yixue, who maintained a pristine reputation. But who else could that young official's daughter have offended in the capital? It was only because the Wen family was so powerful that no one dared to question her. The current emperor was unkind and favored the Wen family, oppressing loyal officials, and the court was filled with complaints. Now, with the rebellious prince marching north, many families in the capital were fleeing with their loved ones. The rebellious prince had a fearsome reputation as the god of death, who dared to stay in the capital. Moreover, with the fighting, innocent civilians could be used as shields. Everyone was fleeing. At this time, when Ishue came to my door, and her intentions were obvious. Proud as ever, when Ishue shed her usual haughty demeanor and begged Lin Zhao to take her away. Lin Zhao didn't expect the woman he once admired to beg him in such a humble manner. He stood frozen, speechless. The pity in his eyes made when Ishue's gaze light up, and she began to plead even harder, even clinging to his arm. Lin Zhao looked at me. I knew what he was thinking. The Wen family was now like a dog without a master. With the rebellious prince back in the capital, they were the first to be targeted. Everyone avoided them, and he couldn't risk having anything to do with the Wen family. But if I spoke up, I might be able to help when Ishue disguise herself as a servant and escape. I gave a faint smile and said, "Sure." When Ishue was stunned, not expecting me to agree. Lin Zhao was even more thrilled. He pushed Wen Ishue aside, took my hand, and looked at me with affection, saying, "Liao Liao, you're so kind." Of course, I was kind. I would even personally escort you both on your way. In my past life, I firmly rejected Wen Ishue and advised Lin Zhao not to get involved with the Wen family, or else the entire Lin family would be implicated. Although Lin Zhao desperately wanted to help his beloved, I repeatedly warned him that he couldn't risk the entire Lin family for her. In the end, he reluctantly refused Wen Ishue. At the time, I thought that would be the last of my dealings with Wen Ishue. But little did I know, after rejecting her, Lin Zhao still couldn't bear to see his beloved suffer. He secretly sent Wen Ishue money and his own guards, hoping to help her escape. However, Wen Ishue was not so easily dismissed. When she saw Lin Zhao, she immediately threw herself at him, completely captivating him, and used the opportunity to propose exchanging me with her to leave the city. This was the truth I learned after I died, unwilling to leave her side. I watched as Lin Zhao, escaping the city, waited for me, but when Ishue convinced him to leave first. The Qin family has never been involved in court politics, so they shouldn't be troubled. Staying here would only be dangerous. We can leave and find a safe place to wait for her. Lin Zhao was easily persuaded. Unfortunately, when my Qin family met up with the Lin family, they didn't find me. Upon learning that I hadn't yet left the city, they immediately cut ties with the Lin family and tried to bring Wen Ishue back in exchange for me. Lin Zhao defended Wen Ishue, and the Lin family, fearing repercussions, decided to cover up their actions. They stopped my parents and locked them and my brother's family in the courtyard until they died of despair. At that time, I was just a soul, powerless to do anything but watch. The good ones ended up in this terrible fate, while the bad ones escaped unscathed. Without me as an obstacle, the Lin family even remarried Lin Zhao to Wen Ishue. Lin Zhao, on their wedding night, held Wen Ishue's hand and emotionally said, "I finally married you. The right person will always meet and stay together." A pair of despicable people. It's best not to see them. In my previous life, I had no place to go, my soul drifting aimlessly. Before my consciousness faded, I didn't think of my parents or Lin Zhao, who had been so heartless. Instead, I thought of Prince Rue. If only Prince Rue could capture everyone from the Wen family, he would definitely eradicate them from the roots. After Prince Rue returned to the capital, everyone panicked and fled in all directions. But Prince Rue, though fierce, stabilized the court and cleaned up the corrupt ministers quickly, putting the empire back on track. Such a person would never indiscriminately kill innocents. If only Prince Rue had entered the capital earlier and captured the remnants of the Wen family. Now the opportunity had come. I was determined to personally send the Wen family to the execution ground. When Lin Zhao saw that I agreed to help, he eagerly circled around me. I casually responded to Lin Zhao a few times and then used the excuse of returning to the Qin family to leave. Once outside, I headed straight for Prince Rue's residence. Since Prince Rue arrived in the capital, chaos had spread. People were fleeing, and others were looting. It was hard to avoid being seen, but I finally managed to meet with Prince Rue. Your Highness, the Wen family's young lady is at my home. I've kept an eye on her for you. Prince Rue, incredulous, repeated. What did you say? When Ishue is being hidden by the Lin family. If we find her, we can find the treasury's money. Prince Rue eyed me suspiciously, clearly doubting my words. How do you know about the treasury? He had a fearsome reputation. One look from him made anyone tremble. But having lived through this once, I was more knowledgeable and did my best to stay calm. Right now, the entire city is searching for Wen family members. When Ishue is just a girl, no one would expect her to be involved in the treasury's secret. I continued, knowing that it was hard to gain trust this way. The Lin family is hiding fugitives, and I can't escape either. Please, Your Highness, don't implicate the Qin family for my timely report. I bowed sincerely to show my earnestness. Prince Rue remained silent. I was a little afraid. If Prince Rue ordered his men to surround the Lin family, they would quickly know if I was telling the truth. But I knew that after the chaos caused by Prince Rue's return to the capital, the princess had advised him to avoid using the situation for personal gain, and I gambled that Prince Rue would listen to her. Who would have thought that the feared Prince Rue would only listen to the princess's words? I guess knowing more about things in this life has its benefits. All right, I'll send people to the place you mentioned to capture them. But if you deceive me... His cold tones still made me shiver. Until when Ishue was found, I had to stay at Prince Rue's residence. A maid brought me tea and snacks, but I ate absent-mindedly. Though I had lived again, as an unmarried woman, I couldn't become significantly wiser just from having more memories. I was still afraid that when Ishue would escape or that something would go wrong. Thankfully, before nightfall, I saw Prince Rue return with a visibly pleased expression. We succeeded. Prince Rue seemed in a good mood and spoke more than usual. The Wen family is all talk. They rely on women for everything. They used Wen Guifei to plot for the throne, and now they rely on their granddaughter to escape. Tisk. He clearly looked down on the Wen family. But then again, the Wen family's daughters were always sold to higher positions. There were no suitable women left in the Wen family, so they forced Wen Ishue onto Wen Guifei's younger son, who was 3 years younger than her. And the Wen men, except for the old man, were all mediocre. As I listened to Prince Rue criticize the Wen family, I silently agreed with him in my heart. What do you want? A voice interrupted my thoughts. I looked up at Prince Rue. Prince Rue, looking quite pleased, said, You can make any request, except to spare the Lin family. In my past life, the treasury was empty, and after Prince Rue ascended, he had trouble getting things done due to a lack of funds. Now that the money had been found, who wouldn't be in a good mood? Surviving was already a blessing, and I didn't care too much about the rest after having died once. The one thing I wanted was simple. I wanted a divorce from Lin Zhao. I wanted to sever ties with the Lin family. Now that they were all prisoners, these murderers had no right to hold the title of my husband's family. This was a small matter, and Prince Rue agreed on the spot. The Crown Prince was rather magnanimous. You can make a bigger request. I, the Crown Prince, am not a petty person. I really didn't know what to ask for. Shouldn't it be that those in power offer gold and silver as a reward? However, after seeing how clearly the Crown Prince had developed an obsession with wealth since finding the national treasury, I realized he probably wouldn't be giving away money. It seemed a bit stingy. In the end, the Crown Prince made a promise to me, one that could be fulfilled at any time. That day when I left the palace, I only brought my maid, Lvzu, with me. When we returned to the Lin residence, we found that things had changed drastically. The gates that had been tightly shut in the morning were now wide open. Guards were coming and going, carrying things out in batches. You have no right to arrest me. My little aunt's sharp voice pierced the air as she argued with the guards escorting her. My little aunt had always disliked me. In the previous life, she had even cruelly insulted my parents, claiming that my short life meant I deserved to die. She stopped them from going back to the capital to look for me, and even encouraged her servants to torment my elderly parents. Now, she had finally gotten her comeuppance. I stood a short distance away, watching as the Lin family's house was raided. My little aunt's sharp eyes spotted me among the crowd. She rushed over, shouting, "It's you, isn't it? You must be the one behind this. Otherwise, how could anyone have suddenly come here?" Even now, she still couldn't see the fault in the Lin family, but instead tried to pin the blame on me. Well, it was indeed me behind it, but so what? After all, the Lin family was already finished. I smiled faintly as I watched the Lin family members being carted off. In my little aunt's eyes, this was an open provocation. She lunged halfway, but was quickly restrained by others. These people weren't soft-hearted and, without hesitation, stuffed a cloth into her mouth to silence her noisy protests. Seeing her furious face, a wave of satisfaction surged inside me. Behind her, Lin Zhaozhou was also being escorted, looking completely dejected, no longer carrying the spirited demeanor he had when trying to rescue his lover earlier in the morning. "Why?" Lin Zhaozhou demanded. The rest of the Lin family was also being dragged out. Hearing Lin Zhaozhou's words, they all looked over. I smiled faintly at him. When Ishua came to your door, did you ever think about why? Because you're foolish. When Ishua loves to manipulate fools, spinning them around. What status do you think you have, daring to hide a fugitive? Whoever harbors a fugitive cannot end well. These were all things Lin Zhaozhou deserved to hear. Compared to the miserable state of the Lin family prisoners, I stood out among the crowd. They were caught completely off guard, not even knowing what was happening until they were surrounded and raided. Now, after hearing my words, their eyes turned to Lin Zhaozhou with anger. No one could have imagined Lin Zhaozhou was foolish enough to love Wen Yixue to this extent, to the point of involving the entire Lin family with her. It's fine. Wen Yixue will always remember you. You'll become someone she'll think of in every lifetime. After saying that, I turned and left with Zhu. I was from the Qin family, and the crown prince had promised me that I could divorce Lin Zhaozhou. Naturally, he would return my dowry to me, so I wasn't worried at all. I didn't care about the chaos behind me. I returned to the Qin family with Zhu. My parents had no idea what was going on, and no one dared to gossip around town. I told my family about everything, and they were all silent. Who would have thought that Lin Zhaozhou's infatuation would ruin the entire family? It seemed like a disease of the mind. That night, I stayed in my room before marriage. This room was still the same, as if someone often came to clean it. It didn't have the musty smell of a room that hadn't been lived in for years. At that moment, I truly felt like I had come back to life. I looked at the clean and bright room before me, and my thoughts turned to the previous life, when my parents and family had been locked in a small courtyard by the Lin family. I couldn't help but cry. Zhu, not understanding what was happening, quickly comforted me. "Miss, it's all right, we're home now." She thought I was afraid, but in reality, I was happy. I had never been strong. Everything had been decided by my parents. Back then, I didn't like Lin Zhaozhou, but my mother said that marriages were like that, everything would be fine after marriage. So I married him. But the ending of the previous life had been awful, and this life wasn't much better. Only now was I no longer a Lin family wife. Zhu saw me crying uncontrollably and quickly called for my mother. "It's all right, we're back home. Your mother is here." My mother gently comforted me, just like when I was a child and couldn't sleep in the summer. She would gently wave a fan to help me drift off to sleep. Because I had reported Wen Yixue's family, the Qin family had made an impression on the new emperor, the crown prince. Now, we weren't in a rush to flee. We were just waiting for the capital to calm down. These days, the outside world was still chaotic, with people hunting down Wen Yixue's supporters. My mother didn't let me go out, nor did she let anyone pass on information about what was happening outside. But I still found out. Perhaps it was because the Lin family's people still couldn't let go of their resentment after being raided. They were shouting and accusing me of dragging them into this mess. Now, there were rumors outside that Qin Liao, the Lin family's youngest daughter-in-law, was a cruel woman who sold out her in-laws to please the new emperor. Although this was the truth, and the Lin family deserved it, to outsiders, it seemed like I was being disloyal and heartless. It was truly laughable. The Lin family had been oppressed by the Wen family for so long, and now they were spinning tales of me being the one to capture the Wen family's fugitives. No wonder the crown prince, now the new emperor, had angrily called the common people fools. At least my family still came by from time to time to chat with me, so I didn't have the leisure to dwell on such things. One day, my mother came over, full of joy. The emperor has issued a decree. The divorce has been finalized, and after the Lin family's house was raided, they were demoted to commoners. They've even lost their house. Considering that the emperor was supposed to be a ruthless figure, according to legend, the crown prince, now the emperor, should have eradicated everyone connected with the Wen family. I had lost interest in the Lin family's affairs. Seeing that I wasn't concerned, my mother shifted the topic to other news in the capital. I heard the Empress is considering establishing a girls' school, so all girls will be able to receive an education. This is a major event in the capital. You see, women nowadays don't attend school. Girls from noble families only receive private tutoring at home. The Empress's actions have caused quite a stir among the scholars. It's said that the officials in court are accusing the Empress of violating the ancestral teachings, claiming that a woman shouldn't rule the morning. This infuriated the emperor. He immediately scolded them, saying, "I am the ancestor of this new dynasty. Who is a subject must listen to their own ancestor." I was dumbfounded. It is said that when the emperor was stationed in the southern territories, he managed the area so well that it became better than the capital. Now that the rebels have been cleared, everyone has been gathering information about the new emperor. It's said that the crown prince, now the emperor, is capable of great things, and much of it is due to the assistance of the Empress, who was once known as the princess consort. The princess consort's reputation in the southern territories is even better than the emperor's. While the emperor has a fiery temper, the Empress is not only admired for her knowledge, but also for her compassion. In the southern territories, where the land was vast and the population sparse, the Empress took the lead. She encouraged the women to grow tea, harvest silk, and taught everyone to read and write, urging them not to remain ignorant. Many people initially thought the stories about the new emperor were exaggerated or flattering, but soon merchants from those regions came to the capital, confirming these rumors. This caused those who had previously mocked the Empress's background to fall silent. I became suddenly very interested in the Empress and started asking around for more details about her. It's said that when she was at the border, she worked alongside the emperor. While the emperor trained the troops, the Empress organized the local women to work and taught girls how to read. Now, the border is flourishing, no longer a barren land. Even women have stepped up to contribute, and they established a women's merchant association. To us women, who hardly ever step outside the home, this seemed like a story. In the capital, most women are trained to be obedient, and even the once proud Wen Yixue kept her arrogance behind the scenes. I couldn't help but imagine how carefree the women at the border must be. Hearing all this, I suddenly remembered the promise the emperor had made to me. I hadn't thought about it back then, but now I had a vague direction. Green Bamboo, hearing me speak, widened her eyes in alarm. "That won't work, ma'am. The mistress won't agree to it. Moreover, this is just a rumor. It may not be true." Green Bamboo hurriedly tried to dissuade me, fearing I might actually venture into business. I'm not necessarily thinking of doing business, but learning even just a bit from the Empress would be enough. Before I could approach the emperor to fulfill the promise, rumors about me started circulating in the capital. It was said that the woman who had divorced and returned to her family, Mrs. Qin of the Lin family, was now going to enter the palace as a concubine. No wonder she betrayed the Lin family. She must be trying to climb the ladder to the new emperor's side. The Lin family is unlucky to have such a daughter-in-law. They say such people don't deserve the emperor. With so many noble ladies in the capital, how can a divorced woman be a match for the emperor? She's certainly trying to repay him with gratitude. I overheard these discussions while I was out for a breath of fresh air with Green Bamboo. Green Bamboo was furious and wanted to defend me, but I quickly stopped her. If we make a scene in public, they'll lose face. I'll also look bad. Gossip like this, I've heard it in both this life and the last. You can't explain it to everyone. Sometimes, the truth will reveal itself. I recognized a few of these women. They were daughters of officials. I didn't know why they were spreading rumors about me, but soon enough, I found out. When I went to request an audience with the emperor, I was summoned by the Empress. The Empress was indeed as extraordinary as the rumors said, unlike any other woman. She wasn't dressed in the extravagant robes of a palace concubine, but in a simple, sharp outfit, as if she had just finished exercising. It was my first time entering the palace. I followed the formalities and bowed to the Empress. She waved her hand, signaling me to rise. I didn't dare speak and stood quietly with my head lowered. When I heard the sound of a teacup being set down, I couldn't help but glance up. I locked eyes with the Empress, and my legs almost gave way, but I managed to catch myself. She chuckled.
Why?
Am I that frightening? I immediately dropped to my knees and apologized. Even though I had lived 2 lifetimes, the grandeur of the palace still made me feel nervous. The heavy palace walls gave an oppressive feeling. Guayao, quickly give Miss Chin a seat. She looks so frightened. The Empress was not at all like the strict mistress of the harem. She continued to joke with me, which made me relax. The Empress, clearly intrigued, asked, "I've heard rumors that you want to enter the palace as a concubine?" I was so startled by her direct question that I almost knelt again. "Your Majesty, I dare not. I never had such an intention." The Empress didn't seem to care much about what I said. When she saw me kneeling again, she spoke sternly.
Sit down.
Answer me while seated. I nervously stood up. Yes, Your Majesty. I repeated my stance. I have never had the intention of entering the palace. Please, Your Majesty, take this into consideration. The Empress smiled slightly. Of course, I know you don't have that intention. It's others who want to send their daughters into the palace, hoping you'll be the stepping stone for them. Those old scholars are always treating women like pawns, betting on them. Her voice was filled with disdain, showing no fear of the little tricks the officials might play. I'm not afraid to tell you. Even if people enter or don't enter the harem, the emperor must listen to me. Those officials who still dream of replicating the late emperor's harem rules are living in a fantasy. I didn't understand why the Empress was telling me all this. Since she knew the rumors were false, why had she summoned me to the palace? I looked at the Empress in confusion. The Empress smiled kindly. You are the most unconventional woman I've seen since returning to the capital. Would you like to follow me? What did she mean? I didn't understand. Didn't following the Empress mean entering the palace? For women, entering the palace meant becoming a concubine or a maid, right? But the Empress had already stated she wouldn't be taking any concubines. As a woman who had been divorced and returned to her family, how could I possibly become a palace maid? Seeing my confusion, the Empress didn't keep me in suspense. She started discussing the rumors circulating about the border areas. Although the rumors were exaggerated, most of them were true. Look at my attendants, she said. They're different from ordinary palace maids, aren't they? I glanced at the attendants beside her. They weren't dressed like regular palace maids, and their mannerisms and attitudes were far from servile. The Empress pointed to them. They're all women who followed me from the border. They were involved in the events you've heard about. Rather than calling them maids, they should be considered my female officials. Female officials? In this dynasty, all officials were men. Even the most arrogant concubines, like the one from the Wen family, could only secretly manipulate others behind the scenes. If I could become one of these female officials the Empress spoke of, I felt a surge of excitement at the thought and looked at the Empress eagerly. After leaving the palace, I dazedly climbed into the carriage. It wasn't until I took the hot tea Green Bamboo had prepared for me that I snapped out of it. Green Bamboo, I think the Empress has taken an interest in me. I remembered the words the Empress had said in the palace. She had called me the bravest woman she'd seen since returning to the capital, someone who dared to challenge outdated customs. Her words made my blood boil with excitement. Green Bamboo, too, was excited but also hopeful that following the Empress could be a way out. She had always been worried about my life after returning to my family. But will your mother agree? She asked. Her words calmed my agitated heart. Although my mother cherished me and was heartbroken after my divorce, she had always been a woman who valued traditional roles. Would she really support me in pursuing what the Empress had suggested? Though I could use the Empress's influence to force my family's approval, I still wanted their sincere support. With a nervous heart, I returned home. My family immediately surrounded me, eager to know what had happened in the palace. I briefly mentioned the Empress's words. As expected, my parents' expressions grew serious. To my surprise, my sister-in-law's eyes lit up. Father had been worried about possible consequences due to the rumors, but the current situation was somewhat better than being held accountable. Still, it wasn't entirely good. A woman can't be an official? I didn't mention that the Empress had asked me to consider this. They all assumed it was already the Empress's will. My parents furrowed their brows, afraid I would become the target of criticism from the capital's officials. Couldn't you choose something else? Didn't the Emperor promise you something? Couldn't you? Before my mother could finish, I interrupted. Mother, the Empress said the Emperor must listen to her. Although this wasn't the exact wording, it wasn't far from it. I dared not meet my mother's gaze, hoping to brush past it. Unexpectedly, my sister-in-law saw all of this. The day after I met with the Empress, the rumors in the capital were officially investigated by the Emperor. Those caught spreading rumors were punished. The Empress had asked me to think for a few days about what I would want to do as one of her female officials. I went out for a walk under the guise of clearing my mind, trying to figure out what kind of female official I might be. Having been raised as a refined young lady, with skills mostly in poetry and etiquette, I wasn't sure what kind of female official I could become. Miss, there's a beggar being beaten up ahead. While walking and lost in thought, Green Bamboo's reminder brought me back to reality. Isn't that the young master of the Lin family? Someone called out. What's wrong with him? Come, let's have tea and listen to music together. Laughter erupted from the crowd. A ragged figure was being kicked around and mocked. The person on the ground curled up like a dog, not resisting. The crowd laughed a little and then walked away. When the person on the ground realized no one was hitting him anymore, he cautiously looked up. Our gazes met, and I was stunned to see it was Lin Zhao. I hadn't heard any news from the Lin family for a long time and thought they had left the capital. Lin Zhao froze when he saw me, quickly lowering his head and dragging his footmarks toward a nearby alley. Sir? Green Bamboo exclaimed. After realizing I had divorced, she corrected herself. Why is he still in the capital? Is he up to something? Green Bamboo had never liked the Lin family. She resented how Lin Zhao treated me after our marriage and the way the family later slandered me. She was eager to go and give him a piece of her mind. I stopped Green Bamboo. We don't need to waste time on them. We have other business today. The Empress was right. At any point, we could choose a different path in life. But it seemed Lin Zhao thought I was foolish, or he was desperately clinging to anything that could save him. He had quietly followed me as I left, approaching me with a humble posture, hoping to plead for something. Today was the day I was supposed to go with my sister-in-law to offer prayers. Since my visit to the palace, she had become very interested in the Empress and kept asking about the female officials. Since I hadn't yet made up my mind, I hadn't shared much with her, though I could tell she was also keen on the idea of becoming a female official. The temple was located on a mountain outside the city, and people who came to pray would stay there for several days. There were special quarters for visitors. Just as I sent Green Bamboo out, someone knocked on my door. I thought it was Green Bamboo forgetting something, but when I opened the door, I saw an unexpected person. He nimbly slipped in and covered my mouth, saying, "Don't scream. I just want to talk to you." Lin Zhao let go of my mouth when I nodded, but I quickly took a few steps back to distance myself from him. What do you want? From the young master of the Lin family to a fallen beggar, I didn't want to confront him head-on. Who knew what desperate action someone with nothing to lose might take? Lin Zhao suddenly dropped his knees. Liao Liao, I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have trusted that wench, Wenixue. She manipulated me, and I was foolish enough to fall for it. Then go find her, I said coldly. After all, she's the one who made you like this. I quietly stepped back, reaching for the teapot handle on the table. Lin Zhao crawled forward. We were both tricked by her. I don't want to be separated from you.
I.
Before he could finish, Green Bamboo burst through the door. Lecher. Green Bamboo didn't see who it was, but immediately lunged at the man standing in front of me. Lin Zhao must have disguised himself as a villager to enter, with a bun on his head. At this moment, Green Bamboo grabbed his hair and started hitting him on the head. Reflexively, he protected his head just like when he was being beaten on the ground that day. Green Bamboo then clearly recognized the person on the ground. "It's you. How dare you come and harass my young lady?" With that, she was about to strike again. Lin Zhao, acting like a rogue, threatened, "I am your family's son-in-law. Even though we are divorced, we were once husband and wife for 100 days. If you bring outsiders into this, do you think your young lady will be fine?" Green Bamboo was so angry her eyes reddened. I immediately smashed the teapot at him. "Liao Liao." Lin Zhao didn't expect me to actually make a move. He looked at me in disbelief and said, "Liao Liao, you actually hit me?" I had always been obedient when I married into the Lin family, never disobeying my elders. This was the reason Lin Zhao dared to act recklessly after our marriage. Now, seeing me resist, it seemed he had forgotten that I was the one who exposed the Lin family and the one who requested the divorce. Perhaps it wasn't that he forgot, but he was hoping for a gamble, betting that I was still the submissive Qin Liao Liao I used to be. It seemed that being a commoner had made me kinder. Looking at Lin Zhao on the floor, the shards of the teapot cut into his scalp, and blood trickled down from his forehead. I decided I would ask the emperor to thoroughly investigate the Lin family once more to see if they had any more power to harass officials' daughters in the capital. Lin Zhao wasn't afraid of me, but he didn't dare to speak loudly about the emperor's investigation into the Lin family. Sure enough, as soon as I mentioned this, Lin Zhao lowered his head, quickly hiding the panic on his face. He raised his head and begged, "Liao Liao, we were once husband and wife, and we are family through marriage. Can't you show some mercy and not push me to the edge?" The Lin family was now like a lost dog, unwilling to leave the capital, hoping to see if the Qin family would soften and help them. How shameless and despicable. Not even mentioning the horrible things they did to my family in the past, locking us up in a desolate courtyard until death. That was what you could call pushing someone to the edge. Now, all I was doing was ignoring them. And that was already the greatest kindness I could show. Even if my parents gave them a single copper coin for the sake of our family's relationship, I would stop it. Watching their family's downfall was already my greatest kindness. Lin Zhao saw the hatred in my eyes and was stunned. I was just misled by Wenixue. "Do you hate me this much?" he said, still thinking I was angry out of love, accusing me of being petty. There was no reasoning with him. His loyalty to Wenixue was the beginning of the Qin family's ruin. People like him, so self-righteous and selfish, wouldn't ever think they were wrong. I gave Green Bamboo a look, and she immediately rolled up her sleeves, grabbed a chair, and smashed it at him, while shouting for help. Lin Zhao saw my determination and dared not to continue, running away in a panic without thinking. My elder sister-in-law, who was in a nearby courtyard, was startled by the shouting and nearly ran into the fleeing Lin Zhao. What happened? My elder sister-in-law came over with people just in time to stop Lin Zhao from escaping. She looked at the person being grabbed in disbelief and asked, "Lin Zhao?" Lin Zhao, now caught, threw caution to the wind and confessed, "Big sister-in-law, it's me. Liao Liao couldn't stop thinking about me and just wanted to see me." Shameless. Lin Zhao had truly turned into a disgraceful rogue. Seeing my fury, my elder sister-in-law understood it wasn't as Lin Zhao had said. She waved her hand, and the servants quickly gagged Lin Zhao and took him away. "Leave it to me to handle," she said, patting my hand to reassure me. I trusted my elder sister-in-law's methods. Coming from a family of military generals, she was skilled in martial arts and was decisive in handling such scoundrels with a quick and sure hand. Sure enough, not long after, I heard the muffled cries of Lin Zhao from nearby, his mouth gagged. My elder sister-in-law smiled slightly. "If you can't speak, then don't speak." In that moment, I actually saw a similar sharpness in my elder sister-in-law that I had seen in the Empress. Before my elder sister-in-law married into the Qin family, I heard that she was quite a remarkable woman in the northern borders, but all I saw after her marriage was her role as a wife and mother in the Qin family. In the past life, when the Lin family had confined me to a separate courtyard, my elder sister-in-law had tried to break out by force. Unfortunately, the Lin family had sent many capable servants, and she was unable to escape. Looking at my elder sister-in-law now, decisive and ruthless, I suddenly felt guilty. In the past life, due to my cowardice, I indirectly caused the death of my entire family. Since returning from the palace, my elder sister-in-law had been keeping an eye on me. It seemed that, like the Empress, she had a similar intuition and had sensed a kindred spirit in me. During this time, I had already decided what I wanted to do with the Empress, so I no longer planned to keep it a secret from my family. Moreover, after seeing my elder sister-in-law unconditionally support me and deal with Lin Zhao on my behalf today, I decided to share with her the things the Empress had told me. As my elder sister-in-law listened, her eyes grew brighter. In the end, she slammed the table and exclaimed, "Great! The Empress is truly a goddess for women. There are so many women in this world, and there's so much more they can do than just being wives and mothers." My elder sister-in-law was so happy. It was as though she had already joined the Empress's faction. After a while, she suddenly remembered me, grabbed my hand, and said, "Liao Liao, although I'm not talented, I am willing to contribute what little I can to the Empress's great cause. Please, introduce me to her." My elder sister-in-law spoke so earnestly and sincerely that, of course, I was willing. But, sister-in-law, don't you want to report this to Big Brother or father and mother first? Sure enough, when we returned home, word of it caused the biggest dispute in the Qin family. The Empress's deeds were no longer a secret in the capital, and everyone admired her. But having oneself or one's family involved in it was absolutely unacceptable. The opinions and rumors of others in high-ranking families made it a disgrace to the family's reputation. Big Brother was fine. He wasn't an old-fashioned scholar, but father and mother firmly disagreed. Father and mother didn't directly address my elder sister-in-law, but instead spoke earnestly to me. "Liao Liao, the divorce with the Lin family has already been the talk of the capital. If you get involved with female officials, have you thought about how you'll establish yourself in the capital in the future?" Mother, though she dotes on me, was afraid of me being dragged into more trouble with the new issues. Others might understand that the divorce with the Lin family was because they were at fault, but if I continue to go against tradition, how will the people of the capital view me in the future? Have you thought about that?
I had already thought about these things.
Since leaving the palace, I had considered them carefully. I knew the Empress's intentions were not just to support me as a divorced woman, but to help me become a new example for women in the capital. The term example was the Empress's, and it could give future generations more courage to walk down a new path. I liked the word. It made my otherwise smooth life burn with passion again. Seeing my parents trying to persuade me, my elder sister-in-law seemed ready to speak up for me. I stood up and said, "This time, let me become the example for this family." "Father, mother, have you noticed who has been discussing the Empress's actions? Who is saying what? Have you paid attention? Those who oppose are the old-fashioned ones, afraid of women standing out. But secretly, women in the capital are envious of the women from the Emperor's former domain. Have you noticed that? When they criticize the South for its immorality, haven't they still been trading with them, using things from the South? The Women's Academy in the South. What girl in the capital doesn't envy it? They just don't dare to say it." I looked at my family. The Empress gave me a book, and there's a line in it that I really resonate with. "An outstanding person, when they shine, won't extinguish the flame of others." So, what are the officials who oppose female officials afraid of? Are they afraid of being outdone? My mother was stunned by my bold words. My father, who had always studied the classics, had never heard such ideas and didn't know how to refute them. I dropped another bombshell. Many of the Emperor's policies were actually thought up by the Empress. When I mentioned the rise of the southern borders, my father and Big Brother, who were more in touch with matters of the outside world, reacted more strongly than my mother. For a while, no one spoke. My elder sister-in-law looked at me with excitement in her eyes. And so, with my family's tacit approval, my elder sister-in-law and I embarked on the path of pioneers that the Empress had spoken of. Later, when I organized the court's welfare institution, I even encountered Lin Zhao, who needed help. He had been made mute by my elder sister-in-law and perhaps had been beaten by someone else later, as he now limped, struggling to walk, while registering for work at the welfare institution. Looking at him from a distance, there was no trace left of the Lin family's young master, only an aura of decay surrounding him. Lord Qin, these people registering here are disabled, but still capable of manual work. Where should we assign them? Green Bamboo, no longer the young girl she once was, had become my right hand, and now everyone called me Lord Qin. I took the form and saw Lin Zhao's name on it. Assign them to the handicraft and weaving workshops. The pay is not much, but the work is simple and easy to learn. Who would have thought I'd end up giving Lin Zhao a way to survive? Compared to the Lin Zhao of my past life, I was still too kind. Lin Zhao seemed to sense something at the door. When he turned around and saw me, his eyes filled with fear, as if he thought I would cut off his last chance. But I was the head of a charity institution appointed by the Empress, so I had at least this much grace left. I should thank Lin Zhao for helping me fulfill my own kindness. From a distance, I smiled faintly at Lin Zhao through the gate and handed the registration form to Green Bamboo to take care of the paperwork. The end.